my fellow Jedi, and welcome to my channel. So I feel like there comes a point in every Star Wars fan's life where the fold-out lightsabers like this are just not quite cutting it anymore. Blade's a little short, doesn't light up. Now I do have the custom hilt, which makes this one pretty cool. But the light up ones are just a lot cooler, let's be honest. So today we're gonna learn how I made this. This is a fully custom handmade lightsaber, full length. The blade is 3 feet long, is removable from the hilt, and you can set the color to any different color you want. Then you can just take it and pull it out. This is a custom hilt that I made several years ago, so I'm not actually going to show you how I made my hilts in this video. I have another video where I explained how I made those. Unfortunately, it's a bit later that I went back and kind of explained it because I tried to film when I was making them and then the footage got deleted off my computer and it was a whole mess. But so I will link that video here and in the description below, and so if you want to see how I made the hilts. So this slides directly out of the hilt. It's held in just by the friction of these bands of tape that I put around this that just make it fit snugly inside. There's the button here, which turns it on and off, which the button on the hilt lines up with, and it has a little thing sticking down that hits this. So I have the remote that came with the lights that I used for this, and since it's a radio wave remote, not infrared remote, the receiver is inside this. It doesn't have to be pointing at it or anything, and I can just hit the button and it changes color. We've got every color you could imagine and various shades of most of them. You can also do this. So yeah, you can have pretty much any color that you want. And the cool thing about this is because it's completely removable from the blade, or from the hilt, you can actually just make this lightsaber and then make new hilts for it if you want to cosplay a different character or if you just want a different lightsaber. You don't have to make multiples of these. I'm making 2 because the character that I cosplay uses 2 lightsabers at the same time, so I am using 2 for that. But really, I will never need more than these 2 because I can, when I cosplay other characters, I can just make different hilts and slide these in, and there we go. I specifically made these as cheaply as possible, so this, not counting the hilt because I made that separately, this cost me less than $30 to make. To get a color changing, removable, custom lightsaber, removable blade, custom lightsaber from any company would be upwards of $100. So this is much cheaper than it would be from an actual company. And since you made it, if there's any issues with it or anything breaks, you know how to go back in and fix it, which is also nice. So yeah, if you want to see how I did this, keep watching. Alright, so this is everything that I need, you're going to need for this. Obviously, otherwise you will need some basic tools such as a drill, screwdrivers, screws, and like scissors and tape and glue and things like that. But this is all of the more specialized things that I had to buy for it. I'll put more of a full list of everything in the description, but this is all the more specialized things I had to somehow obtain or make for the lightsaber. So I'm gonna go one by one, kind of explain each piece. This is a piece of polycarbonate tubing. It is 3 feet long, which that's just personal preference on how long your blade length is. And so this is 1 inch outer diameter, 3/4 inch inner diameter, and 1/8 inch thickness on the wall. So you want that 1/8 inch thickness because it makes it a lot stronger. even though I wouldn't recommend sparring with these, technically you can. It just really scares me after the amount of work that I put into this. I don't want to break it. But you can, I would say, spar with these. Because this is the same material that they use to make the ones that you buy at the store or online. This is just a sheet of paper, a really long cut piece of paper. Basically what I did, this goes inside the tubing to help diffuse the light, and you're going to want to find the circumference of the tube and cut the paper that width at the same length as the tubing. Next we have the battery. This is just a regular rechargeable battery that people use for your phone. You can carry in your purse, and then you can use it to recharge your phone. And it fits, make sure it fits inside the PVC pipe, because that's where it's going to have to go. And I also put this piece of tape on it and then folded it around like this so that it can be easily removed from here to be charged. Next, this is not actually the piece of PVC pipe I'm going to use. This is a piece that I cut earlier. It was part of the original plan for the lightsaber, which ended up changing. But you're going to need some PVC pipe that fits fairly snugly inside your hilt. As snugly as possible. We're also going to add tape on the outside to make it really stay in. Yeah, and make sure when you're choosing these sizes that they kind of go together. For mine, there was quite a bit of space between this and this, as you can see here, which I'll show you how to make up for that later. But if you want to just get them the same size, you can also do that. It just would have been too thick because my hilts are really thick. Then we have these. These are LED strip lights. I got these off of Amazon, surprisingly cheap. These are actually really nice ones, and I didn't think they would be this nice, but they turned out to be really nice. And also make sure that these are made to be battery operated, not made for a plug-in in the wall. Otherwise you're going to have issues when you try to connect the battery. I got ones that came with a cable that connects one end to this. The other end can be USB, which is perfect for this because that's what this connects to. And so the cable is right here. Now I have modified this. It comes in just a plain straight long cable without the battery, or no, without the switch. It's just like this all the way through, and it's much longer. I took a lot of the length out by cutting it and then soldering the two ends of the black wire to this battery, which I took out of a flashlight, and then I just soldered the red back together. It doesn't matter if you put the switch on the black or the red, just make sure obviously that you keep the colors together. And the switch is from the bottom of one of those little dollar store flashlights, so it's really cheap. And honestly, this one's just from one that my dad had sitting around that didn't work anymore, so you can probably find these in your house already. Next, you want your lightsaber hilt. This one I still have the fold-out blade, and I actually made this so that you can still have the fold-out blade, so it's interchangeable between the two. And I'll show you in a minute how I did that. It was a really quick, easy thing, and it's kind of cool because now if I want a fold-out blade that's a different color, I can interchange that too. The other thing I made was this button for the hilt. I got the rubber button from the same flashlight that I stole the switch from, and then I just took a little piece of the plastic that was on the casing for the switch and the flashlight that I broke to get it out. I took that and cut this little piece from it and glued it inside here so that when it's on the hole and you press it, it'll hit the button on the blade. And I also removed the old plastic that I had here to represent the button and drilled a hole in it so that it would actually have a real button. But if you make your hilt specifically for this, obviously that won't be an issue. And the final thing seems kind of weird, but it's actually plastic bags, like grocery bags. And these are just strips that I already cut from one. You want to make sure that you cut strips that are don't have any of the writing or print on it. You just want plain white, because this is going to wrap around the lights and help diffuse the light along with the paper. So yeah, and I live in California, so we have those like really thick reusable bags that you get from the grocery store, but you don't want to use those because that's going to dim the light too much. You want to get the real thin, flimsy kind if you can. We still had some of these sitting around that we weren't using, so I was able to cut those into strips and use that. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. Real quick, I'm going to show you how I made the fold out thing blade be removable. If you want to see how I built the lightsaber hilt and with the fold out thing, that's going to be in the video about me making the hilt. I also explained how I made them fold out lightsabers, so if you want to see that, check that out. But I'm just going to proceed, assuming you know how the fold out part works. So basically, it has this, where you flick it, blade comes out, you grab, pull hard, comes right out. So the way that I did that was I made this. This is just a little ring of PVC pipe with masking tape wrapped around it. And basically I just figured out exactly how much masking tape it needed to fit tightly inside here, but not so tightly it was impossible to get in and out. So you put this in, the blade in, and then you take this. I wrapped several layers of masking tape around it and a lot of trial and error with getting it in and out. And with the blade in, you just put it in the top and press it down. It's going to be kind of hard to get in, but that's why it stays when you flick the lightsaber out. And there you go. So now it's inside. If I had a little more time, I'd push it down better, but there's that. And it doesn't come out. When you do this, you can even adjust the blade, pull it out and stuff. It's still not going to come out. But then if you want it out, you just yank it and it'll come right out. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do is get the lights ready. You're going to fold them in half so that they are the length of your tubing for the blade. Because what you're going to do is basically stick the backs to each other so that there's lights on both sides and you won't have, just lights on one side. So you're going to measure this to the tube, and I'm going to just cut it right there. So this is my just little extra piece I'll throw away. And we have this now. So now you're going to be very careful on this. I'm going to angle the camera down so you can see what I'm doing better. So you're going to go ahead and just take off all of the backing on this. Be careful, make sure this doesn't get stuck to anything because it is very... Okay, now this part you have to be careful with because you don't want any like bends in it, you want it to stay straight. So you're going to take the two ends together, make sure that it's well lined up, and then you want to hold it vertically and slowly go down, pressing it, make sure it stays lined up with itself. Should be double-sided with no like bumps or bubbles or anything all the way down. So I noticed on the other one that this comes unstuck a lot at the very end here. You can see that likes to come unstuck even if you stick it back. So I'm just going to wrap a little bit of tape around that to keep it stuck down and protected. Just a little bit of scotch tape, and I'm just going to wrap it around that. I tried gluing it, but it came undone. I don't think the glue sticks to this stuff very well. And we're just going to leave it like that. Okay, and so the next part is to take your strips of plastic bag and you're just going to wrap the whole thing in them. So I just have a piece of tape stuck to it. I'm just going to take it and wrap it pretty tightly. I'm just going to tape it with scotch tape. The next thing that we're going to do is cut the PVC pipe to encase all of the electronic stuff, like the battery and everything. So I'm going to go out to my garage where we have the PVC pipe and everything. So I have my PVC pipe and the hilt. Basically how I'm going to choose the length for this is I'm going to slide it inside and then kind of estimate about where the screws are going to go. They'll need space to be slightly offset from each other. So I'm going to say I need about that much space for them. See it there. At the same time, I'm also going to mark this hole because that is where the button is, so I'll know where to drill. And then I'm also going to compare this with the other one, make sure the one I already made, just make sure I'm not too far off. But I think that should work because that's what it's going to slide into. And then the next step is just going to be to cut this right here. Alright, so I cut this PVC pipe. So the next thing is to drill the hole in it and do this. So I also made these. Basically, these are little pieces of PVC pipe that I cut, and what's going to happen is I'm going to put like a layer of tape down underneath it because it's not quite enough to take up the extra space, and then I'm going to put these on top where each of the screws or the bolts is going to go in and out, because basically it's going to be two on here like this, a hole all the way through all of this, and then a bolt is going to go all the way through to the other side where there will be a nut. And so 4 of these will be all the way around it. And I'm going to tape them on using masking tape, and then that will fit inside here. Hold it all together, drill the holes through, and then we can take it apart and finish up all the other stuff with the blade. And then when we're done, we'll just put it back together, put the bolts through it, and the nuts on the ends. So I finished drilling the holes in this, and I put a little cross on this side, which is the front, which lines up with the hole for the button, just to make sure that everything will line up when I put it back in. And so yeah, so next we're going to start working on the button and the lights. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is prepare the button. This. So once you have it all soldered and everything, this is not the actual piece of PVC pipe, but this is the other one. I'm just going to use it as an example. The button should go through the hole, just like that. But the problem is this black ridge around the button, and this is a pretty standard button for flashlights. If you end up with a different one, obviously, yeah, you'll have to figure it out separately, but I discovered that this black ridge hits the PVC pipe, which means that that's all of the surface area that touches it. So gluing that on would not stay. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take, this is just cardboard from like a soda box thing, you know, like that kind of thin cardboard they use for a lot of boxes for like food and stuff. And we're going to cut out a piece that is basically the same as the outline of this, so you can even draw in the outline. And then we're going to make a hole in the middle of it. The button can go through. We're going to make 3 of those, stack them, glue them together, stacked on top of this, and that's basically going to come up to the same level as this black ridge right here. And that's going to give you a lot more surface area to glue onto the inside of the PVC pipe. There we go. So our goal is this. And then we're just going to do 2 more just like that, and then we'll glue them on. Alright, so now we have that on there, and it mostly takes up that space. So we're going to let that dry, and then after that we'll glue the button into the actual PVC pipe. So the next thing that we're going to do is put the paper into the blade. So I'm going to take this. You can take any like long skinny thing that fits inside this. This is the like thing from like to pull blinds with. It's just like lying around. And you're going to take your piece of paper and you're going to wrap it around this thing. Take it and you just got to get it so the end will go in. Try to avoid wrinkling it as much as possible. Alright, and then now you're going to be able to slide that up. One thing is that it's going to block the holes here, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull it out a little bit, and we're actually going to cut a little bit off the end. Another way it might be better is to push it through until it's at the right point so that the holes are not blocked, and then at this end you can cut it. That might be better. There you go. So now you should be able to see through all of the holes, but you should still not see any space between this and the paper. Alright, so now we're going to test it and you're going to see how well it diffuses the light. So as you can see, you can really still see the individual lights. It's pretty bad right now. Now we're going to push it through here. And now you can see it's much better. The lighting, it's really bright in here, so it's hard to see it on camera, but it shows up pretty well now. Like it's pretty well diffused. It no longer looks like individual lights as much. You're always going to be able to see a little bit through here. That's just unfortunately part of how this goes, but it's better now. And also we can use the button to turn off and on, and this to change the colors. So now we're going to, the next thing we're going to do is put the cover on the tip. I'm going to go ahead and take the lights out for now and set those aside. So for my other one, the tip looks like this. Honestly, I didn't find the best possible way of doing the tip. If you come up with a better idea, definitely go for that. But basically what I did was I took some hot glue and put it on parchment paper and made this. So this is hot glue. And then I glued it on with the better glue. This is the one that I made for this one. It's literally just a piece of hot glue that's cooled, clearly. And I'm going to use this glue to glue it on because hot glue isn't going to work very well. Alright, so now we are going to glue the button into the PVC button. So basically I'm just going to put some glue on it. I'm going to take it and make sure that this end, the end with that connects to the lights, goes in. The top, actually I'm going to take it from the bottom. And then you're just going to take it inside. Make sure the button comes out the hole, like so. Try to make sure the button's oriented correctly on the inside too. And then there you go. So it should have one end of the wire coming out one side and the lights end coming out the top. Hi, so it's the next day and this is dried. So now we should have the button securely glued in and the wires coming out each end. And so today we put the whole thing together. So it will not be completely done today because there will be some things that have to dry overnight, but it should be done by tomorrow morning. Alright, so we're going to start by we're going to take the lights, make sure there's no lint on them, and put them into the blade. There we go. So you should have the end of the lights right in there. And then, so this part's gonna be kind of difficult, honestly. We're going to plug the lights into this. In order to keep the connection from coming undone, because see, it's pretty, like, you can pull it in and out easily. And we don't want that coming undone inside there because that's going to be really annoying to have to take it apart and plug it back in. So I'm going to take some of this duct tape, doesn't matter what color it is, this is just what I had. And I'm just going to wrap it around that connection to hold it in place. Alright, and push it back in. Okay, now this is honestly the hardest part of making the whole thing, because basically we have the lights in here and we need to crisscross the screws in, but the lights just barely fit and you have to get it so that they're situated exactly right so you can get the screws through. So it will take a few tries and it will be kind of frustrating, but you have to be careful because the receiver is too big. They won't fit in through that, so they have to go in between. This has to be what's in between them. But you want as much of the receiver in there as possible because you'll have an issue of the battery not having enough space if this is completely shoved down into this. Because this, along with the button, are really going to restrict where the battery can sit, which will cause you problems. So I'm going to try to line this up, and then what I did before was I took a little bit of duct tape, rolled it up so it's double-sided, and used it to stick that down inside there so that it stays in place. and basically I want it to go like right between the two holes. So you see how there's a hole here and here. I want it between those. Just gonna push the wire down inside. And make sure you line up the holes with the one on the PVC pipe. Okay, and so now we're going to try and insert the screws. These are the bolts I'm using. They fit like exactly across, so I don't have to cut them, which is nice. And I'm going to insert from the back. I found that was the best way to do it. It was the easiest to get it through. Alright, so after messing around with it for a bit, I got the screws in. And so now I'm just going to tighten them up. This part truly is, like, you know how in Star Wars the lightsabers, they have to like get the crystal and everything perfectly like lined up and use the force for that. That's this part. You have to get the screws perfectly lined up and the lights like in the right place, otherwise it will not go in. Of course, if you have a wider inner diameter on your polycarbonate tubing, that will make this a lot easier. Alright, so you don't need to tighten it like so hard because it will warp the PVC pipe. But it should be hard enough that there's really not much movement when you move it back and forth. There will probably always be at least some, but try to minimize that as much as possible. So now we have the blade in, which is honestly the hardest part. The second hardest part though is the next part, which is getting the battery in. And of course there's the possibility that things inside will not be lined up correctly and we'll have to take the blade off again and mess with the receiver and everything inside there. We're gonna hope we don't have to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and take this battery, which is charged. Make sure you charge it, because then if you like test it and it doesn't come on, you're gonna think something's wrong, really the battery's just not charged. So this is the battery I'm using with the little tape thing that I added. So we're gonna plug that in, and I am going to take the wire and kind of fold it alongside the battery and push it inside. Now, if you don't keep like the fold out option for your lightsabers, just it going in that much is fine. However, because I have the fold out option, the way that it works, there's a screw that goes up through the middle of the lightsabers, which I did actually have to shorten for this, but there's still an issue of this hitting it, so I have to get it to go in quite a bit farther than that. Hopefully that's enough. That seems pretty good. Alright, so have it all put together. The hole I drilled for the button actually ended up being slightly high for the hole for the button and the hilt, so I ended up having to take it apart, re-drill the hole, put it all back together again, so that kind of sucked. But I have it all together now, and it works. So I went ahead and glued on the button. So this was the button I showed earlier that's from a flashlight, and then I glued like a little piece of plastic into it so it would hit the button on this. So I just put this inside, lined that up, glued it, held it on, let it set for a bit, and then because this is curved and the button is flat, I put tape on to hold it so that it doesn't like pop, the sides don't pop up off of it while it dries, and then once it's dry we should have no problem. Do make sure that the plastic piece that you glue in like doesn't go in beyond the edge of this, because when you slide this in, it'll catch on that and that'll get ripped off, or worse, it'll tear the actual rubber, which happened on the other one, so I had to replace it and redo it. So just be mindful of that, but otherwise this is good to go. So the next step is to spray paint this part black. Now obviously that's going to have to do with your personal preference and the design of your lightsaber. As you can see on my other one, it looks like this, where I have to glue the button back on still. That's the one that broke. It looks pretty good with the black on it, but obviously if you want it to be a different color, you can do that. Another thing you can do is, before you put the screws in, spray paint just the PVC pipe and then have the screws just be their natural silver. That could also be another kind of look that you could go with. Alright, so it is the next day, and here's what we have. It got under the tape a little bit there, and I probably should have covered more of it with tape, but it's fine because this part's really not going to show. So there we go. And this is finished. See? It works. So we have one more little thing to do with it, and that is to wrap it with this. I'm not wrapping the whole thing, I'm just going to do two bands, like here and here. Really, it'd probably be fine with just the one, but I like to do two, just make it a little more secure. And basically, it's just trial and error. You're just trying to make it tight enough that it will stay in the hilt without you having to worry about it while you swing it around or do whatever, but you can also pull it out and put it back in fairly easily. So I'm just going to take it, this, try to get it straight, and I'm just going to wrap the tape around. Alright, and you are done. So your finished lightsabers. So now you are free to go outside and swing these around all you want. One other thing I did want to mention, because my lightsabers have this thing on the back, I did end up putting, see if I can get it out again. Okay, I'm going to turn it off, I think. I did end up putting a little bit of glue on this screw back there just to keep it from scratching the paint on the inside of this. Obviously, if your hilts are different, that's not something you'll have to worry about. Line up the button again. There we go. But yeah, just a little tip for that because they were scratching it. So yeah. So there you go. That is your finished lightsaber, and it changes color. I'll figure out which one of these is which. There we go. You can have it any color you want. So it's great to use for various different cosplays. So yeah, if you want to see these lightsabers in action, check out my TikTok account, my cosplay TikTok. I have two accounts, which will be linked below. It's the one labeled cosplay, and that is where I do a lot of my cosplay stuff. I will be doing a reveal video for these lightsabers, so nobody on my account knows that I'm doing this yet. So yeah, so if you want to see these in action and the rest of my cosplay, check that out. I will be doing a tutorial for my Jedi cosplay. I just keep putting it off because I keep making other things that I need tutorials for. So, but I will be doing that very soon. So yeah, so if you want to see that, subscribe to my channel. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and like, and if you have any questions about the lightsabers or the process, leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer it. Also, if you have a specific request for a specific tutorial you would like to see, go ahead and put that in the comments too, and I will try to get to it. Have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.